I'll be honest. I don't know when it started, or even how to define the exact moment that the shift happened. But there was a change. The kind you can feel in the air. You know it when something goes from being okay to being off. It was subtle at first, like when you notice a crack in the paint, but you don't think much of it until one day you realize that it's spread and the wall is falling apart. My wife, Emily, and I have been together for over 10 years. We met in college, a classic story of late-night library sessions and shared jokes that turned into something real. We were inseparable, always had been. At least, that's what I thought. Life, as it tends to do, had its ups and downs. We struggled through money issues, job changes, and those inevitable moments that test a relationship. But we came out stronger every time. That's what I believed, at least. Then things started changing, but not in a dramatic, movie-esque way. No, it was more like a slow, creeping discomfort that became harder to ignore. I noticed her phone more often. It wasn't that she was on it more, it was that she was guarding it. She'd get a message, and instead of casually letting me glance at the screen like she used to, she'd swipe it away quickly, her face turning ever so slightly away from me, as though she was trying to hide something. When I asked her about it, she'd shrug it off with a laugh and an excuse. Just work stuff, she'd say. I didn't press it. At least, not yet. But then, there were other things. The late nights, the sudden out-of-town trips. She was always so busy at work, she said. More projects, more deadlines. Yet, when she was home, she was distant, cold. And I couldn't help but feel it. We'd been through rough patches before, but we always found our way back. This time was different. It wasn't until the night she came home late again, eyes wide, face flushed, that the feeling in my gut grew stronger. She had that look, the kind of look that tells you she's hiding something. She walked into the house like everything was normal, but I could tell she was jittery. A different kind of jittery, though, like when someone is hiding a lie. Is everything okay? I asked. The words came out too casual, too detached. I didn't want to confront her, but I couldn't ignore this feeling anymore. Something was off. She smiled at me, but it was forced. Yeah, everything's fine. But I could tell it wasn't fine. As I lay in bed that night, pretending to sleep while my mind raced, I realized something. I had to know. I had to find out what was really going on. But that would mean looking for answers in places I wasn't sure I wanted to go. And that, right there, was the moment when I crossed a line. I didn't want to be the kind of guy who snooped. I had always prided myself on trust in our relationship, and that was something I never questioned before. But as the days passed, the nagging suspicion that something was wrong started to gnaw at me relentlessly. So, I did what I never thought I'd do. I started looking. It started small. I glanced over her shoulder when she was texting. Nothing too obvious. Just a quick peek. But every time, I saw that same name, Jake. It was the way she smiled when she said his name, the way her voice would soften, like she was talking to someone who meant more than just a coworker. I tried to dismiss it at first, tried to convince myself I was overthinking. But the more I saw, the more I couldn't deny it. Her reaction when I asked about him told me everything I needed to know. One night, after another late work meeting, I found myself alone in the living room, unable to sit still. I needed answers. I told myself it was just curiosity, just a need to feel certain again. And so, without thinking too much about it, I took a step that felt like I was crossing a line I'd never cross. I went into her purse. I couldn't believe I was doing it, but I needed to know. Her phone was right there, just sitting on the coffee table, as if inviting me to find what I was searching for. My heart raced as I picked it up, my fingers trembling slightly. I unlocked it. We had always had the same code, nothing suspicious about it. But the second I saw the screen light up, I regretted it. There were the messages. Jake. Over and over again. The texts weren't just innocent work discussions. There were hints. No, not hints. Clear admissions, hidden under the guise of jokes. I can't wait to see you again, one text read. You make me feel alive. And then there were the images. I had to stop myself from scrolling any further. I knew exactly where this was going. But I couldn't help it. I needed to see more. I needed to know the truth. So, I scrolled through everything, feeling like I was digging my own grave with each tap of the screen. And then I found it. The words that sealed it all for me. Let's meet up tonight, just us. No more hiding. I felt a sick twist in my stomach. The world went fuzzy around the edges. The woman I'd loved for over a decade, the woman I'd built a life with, was cheating on me. And not just casually, it was real. It was deep. It was intimate. I sat there, staring at the phone in my hands, trying to process everything. My thoughts were scrambled. She wasn't just busy. She wasn't just distant. She had chosen him. And in that moment, I felt something I couldn't quite name. Betrayal. Yes, but also a sharp, burning rage that twisted in my chest. But I couldn't let her know. Not yet. I needed to think. I needed a plan. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I needed time to gather my thoughts. But one thing was certain. I wasn't going to let this slide. I'd been lied to, deceived, and I wasn't about to let her walk away from this without facing the consequences. The days dragged on, each one heavier than the last. Every time I saw Emily, I had to fight the urge to look away, to not see the woman I thought I knew. But she was different now. There was something in her eyes, a guardedness I couldn't ignore. It was like she was hiding behind a mask, pretending everything was fine. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep living in this lie. So, one night, after a particularly long day, I decided it was time. I needed answers. No more pretending. No more silence. I needed to confront her. But I told myself, no dramatic outbursts, no shouting. I was calm, composed. I just wanted the truth. Emily, we need to talk, I said, my voice steady. She raised an eyebrow, caught off guard. Sure, what's up? I sat on the couch, motioning for her to join me. She did, but there was a nervous energy about her. It was like she knew this moment was coming. I didn't waste any time. I know about Jake. Her eyes went wide, a flicker of panic crossing her face. She didn't say anything, but I saw the shift. She was calculating her next move, trying to figure out if she could deny it. But she couldn't. Did you go through my things? Her voice was small now, defensive. I didn't have to, I replied. Your texts, the messages, the way you act when you talk about him. It's clear as day. For a second, she just stared at me, her lips trembling, before she let out a quiet sigh. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. How long, Emily? My voice cracked, but I didn't let it show. How long have you been seeing him? She looked away, unable to meet my gaze. A year, she said in a barely audible whisper. A year. I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. All this time, I had been living in a house full of lies. I clenched my fists, trying to keep the anger in check. A year of betrayal? Of lies? While I've been sitting here, thinking everything was fine. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said, tears streaming down her face. It just happened. I shook my head, unable to hold back the frustration. Don't say that. You made a choice, Emily. Every single day. She reached out for my hand, but I pulled away. Who is he? Who is Jake? She hesitated, like she was fighting against something. Finally, she said, he's just a colleague. A friend. But it went too far. I never wanted to hurt you. I could see the guilt in her eyes, but there was more. I could feel it. More lies, more secrets. And just then, it hit me. This wasn't just about Jake. There was something bigger here. Something she was still hiding. But I wasn't going to let it go. Not now. I should have known. I should have seen it sooner. The signs were there all along, hidden beneath layers of excuses and distractions. But now, with the truth hanging between us, I couldn't ignore the ache in my chest. I was drowning in it, and Emily's apologies did little to keep me afloat. Her confession had cracked the surface, but it hadn't answered all my questions. I needed to know more. What else was she hiding? Who else was involved? And why had she lied to me for so long? I could feel the anger bubbling up again, threatening to spill over, but I held it in. I wasn't going to make this about rage. Not yet. I needed clarity. I don't believe you're telling me everything, I said, my voice low and controlled. You're still holding something back. She flinched at my words, but I saw the truth in her eyes. She didn't want to tell me everything. Couldn't, maybe. But I wasn't going to let this go. Not now. I can't. I can't tell you everything, she whispered, looking down at her hands. It's too much. I don't know how it got this far. Tell me what you can, I pressed. Who else is involved, Emily? Who is Jake to you, really? Her face flushed as she avoided my gaze. I could see her fighting with herself, battling between guilt and fear. For a moment, it seemed like she might say something, but then the moment passed, and she was silent again. I don't know what you want me to say, she said softly, her voice trembling. I never meant to hurt you. It's just, I didn't know how to stop. The frustration inside me was starting to turn cold, like a stone lodged deep in my chest. She kept saying she didn't mean to hurt me, but every word she spoke only deepened the wound. I had given her everything. I had trusted her completely. And in return, I'd been living a lie. I stood up, pacing around the living room, trying to organize my thoughts. It felt like everything I had known was crumbling. And the worst part was that I didn't know if I could even trust the woman standing in front of me anymore. "What else are you hiding?" I asked, my voice cracking despite myself. "What else haven't you told me?" She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. She just stood there, shaking. "I can't do this," she finally said, her voice barely audible. "I never wanted to hurt you, but I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know how to fix this." That was the thing about apologies. They were empty when you couldn't undo the harm. When the damage had already been done, all the words in the world didn't matter. And Emily's words felt hollow. I turned to face her, my heart heavy with the realization that this might be the end. Not just of our marriage, but of everything I thought I knew about us. "I don't know if you can fix this," I said quietly. "But I deserve to know the truth, Emily. All of it." She looked up at me, her eyes full of guilt and fear. And that was when it hit me. The truth wasn't just about Jake. There was something much deeper here. Something I was going to uncover, no matter what it took. The days after our conversation were suffocating. Emily kept apologizing, asking for forgiveness, but it didn't change the fact that everything felt different. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. She wasn't the woman I thought I knew. She was a stranger who had betrayed me. Despite the guilt written all over her face, something about her confession didn't sit right. She admitted to Jake, but I couldn't shake the feeling there was more she wasn't telling me. The hesitation in her voice, the way she avoided certain questions. There was more beneath the surface, and I needed to find it. I decided to bide my time. I kept acting like everything was normal, pretending to be unaffected, while my mind raced with questions. I observed her more, waiting for any sign that might lead me to the truth. The more I watched, the more her behavior started to feel off again. She was protective of her phone, constantly checking it, and acting nervous whenever I got close. I knew she was hiding something. I just didn't know what yet. One afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't keep waiting for answers to fall into my lap. I needed to take control. I'd learned all I could through her actions, but I needed something concrete, something undeniable. When she told me she was running errands, I saw my chance. I grabbed her phone. It was risky, I knew, but I had to know. My heart raced as I unlocked it, hoping I could find something, anything, that would give me the answers I so desperately needed. At first, it looked like just a regular phone, filled with work messages and harmless texts. But then I found it, buried under the other conversations. A thread between Emily and Jake. The messages weren't subtle. "I can't wait to see you again," one said. "I miss you so much." My stomach dropped as I read through it. It was clear they weren't just coworkers. They were involved in something deeper, something more intimate. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. How long had this been going on? How many times had she lied to my face while keeping this from me? One last message from Jake read, "I can't believe you're still with him. You deserve better." That hit harder than I expected. It was the confirmation I needed, though it stung. I wasn't just another man in her life. I was the man she was betraying, and it was clear she didn't feel the same way about me anymore. I put the phone down, the weight of the truth crashing down on me. I could confront her now, but I knew I had to be careful. I needed to be sure, to have all the pieces before I exploded. I wasn't just looking for answers anymore. I was looking for closure. The next few days were the longest of my life. Each morning, I woke up beside her, pretending nothing had changed, when everything had. I felt like I was suffocating in a life I no longer recognized. Emily kept up her routine of apologies and promises to do better, but I couldn't bring myself to trust her anymore. I kept the phone incident to myself. I had the proof I needed, but something inside me said I wasn't done yet. I needed to confront her with everything. Everything I had found, everything she had hidden from me. But first, I had to be patient. If I approached her too quickly, she'd only deny it. I needed her to admit it all herself. So, I let her continue to believe things were fine. Every time she asked me what was wrong, I lied. "I'm just tired," I'd say. And I was. Tired of pretending. Tired of the tension that had settled into the space between us. But I wasn't about to show my cards yet. I needed her to feel the pressure, the weight of her own guilt. One evening, after another strained dinner where she barely looked me in the eye, I decided it was time. The dam was about to break. I couldn't keep this charade going any longer. We were cleaning up in silence when I turned to her. I need you to tell me everything. She froze, a plate still in her hands. The fear was there in her eyes, the recognition that I knew more than she had expected. What do you mean? She asked, trying to play dumb. You know exactly what I mean, I said, my voice steady but firm. I've seen the texts. I know about Jake. But there's more, isn't there? I need to know everything, Emily. The full truth. Her face turned pale. She set the plate down slowly, her hands shaking. I watched her struggle for a moment, debating whether to confess it all or try to lie her way out. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered, but the words had no weight anymore. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. That's the problem, I said, cutting her off. You didn't mean for it to happen, but you made choices. Every day, you chose him. And I'm still here, left to pick up the pieces. So tell me, how long has this been going on? She hesitated again. I could see the guilt tearing her apart, but I wasn't going to let her off easy. A year, she finally admitted, her voice barely audible. It's been going on for a year. A year. My heart sank. I had suspected it, but hearing it from her lips felt like a punch to the gut. I took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. I had to know more. And Jake isn't the only one, is he? I asked, my voice cold. Her eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. She shook her head. No, it's just him. I swear. But I wasn't sure I believed her. There was something in the way she said it, something that felt off. I'm not stupid, Emily, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I've seen the way you've been acting. You're hiding something else from me, and I'm going to find out what it is. I saw the realization hit her. This wasn't just about Jake anymore. This was about everything she had kept from me, everything she thought I wouldn't notice. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her for this, but I had to know everything. The truth, no matter how much it hurt, was the only thing that could make this right. It was a strange thing, sitting there in the silence after Emily's confession. For a moment, neither of us spoke. She stood there, her face drained of color, while I tried to process the weight of her words. A year. She had been seeing him for a year, and I had been none the wiser. The anger I had felt before seemed to drain out of me, replaced with a numbness. It wasn't the relief I thought I'd feel, knowing I had confirmation. No, it felt worse somehow. Like I had been walking through a fog for months, and now that it was gone, I could see the sharp edges of the truth cutting through the haze. Emily looked at me, her face twisted with regret. I didn't want this. I didn't want to hurt you, but I made a mistake. I don't know how it happened. I don't know how it got this far. You didn't make a mistake, Emily, I said, my voice cold. You made a choice. Every day, you chose him over me. And now, I'm sitting here, wondering how I was so blind. How I didn't see it. I'm sorry, she whispered, her eyes welling up with tears. I never wanted to betray you. You mean everything to me. Her words, no matter how sincere they seemed, couldn't touch the rawness inside me. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to feel like she was truly sorry. But how could I? How could I forgive someone who had broken my trust so completely? The silence stretched on, and I realized I had to ask the one thing I had been avoiding. Who else, Emily? Her eyes widened, and she took a step back. What do you mean? You said it was just Jake. But I don't believe you. There's something else. I can feel it. I need to know. She shook her head, looking desperate. No, it's just him. It was just Jake. Please, I swear. I wanted to believe her. Part of me wanted to. But that part of me, the part that had been betrayed, couldn't accept it. She had lied to me for so long. How could I trust her now? I need to know everything, Emily. Every detail. Don't hold anything back. She swallowed hard, her hands trembling. I don't know how much more I can say. I didn't want to hurt you, but I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I can. The tears were streaming down her face now, but they didn't make me feel any sympathy. The woman I had loved for so long was unraveling right in front of me, and I felt powerless to stop it. I don't know if you can either, I said, my voice quiet. But I deserve to know the truth. Every last bit of it. She took a shaky breath, and for a moment, it seemed like she was going to tell me everything. But then she looked away, her eyes darting to the floor. It's just Jake. It was always just him. I swear. I could see the conflict in her eyes. Part of her wanted to come clean, to unload the weight of the lies. But another part of her was holding back. And I realized, in that moment, that the truth she was holding back wasn't just about Jake. It was about something else. Something deeper. The knot in my stomach hadn't loosened by morning. The uncertainty, the weight of her betrayal, pressed on me harder than ever. I couldn't just let it go. Emily had confessed to Jake, but I knew there was more. There had to be. The truth was buried somewhere beneath her words, and I was going to find it, no matter how long it took. She was already up when I entered the kitchen, making coffee as usual. But today, it felt different. The air between us was charged, thick with all the things unsaid. She glanced up, waiting for me to speak, but I was watching her, studying her every move. The guilt was there in her eyes, but guilt wasn't enough. I needed more. You said you told me the truth. I began, my voice controlled but firm. But I don't believe you. Her hand trembled as she set down the coffee pot. She looked at me, her expression pleading. What more do you want from me? I took a step closer, the anger simmering just below the surface. I want to know everything. You've been lying to me for months. For a year. And now, you expect me to believe that Jake is the only one? Her face went pale. She stepped back, avoiding my eyes, like she was trying to hide from the truth. It's just Jake, she said quickly, almost pleading. I swear, I never wanted this. I shook my head, frustration building. You've been seeing him for a year. A year, Emily. How can you expect me to believe you now? I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't mean for it to happen. I exhaled slowly, trying to keep my composure. But the betrayal was like a weight in my chest, making it harder to breathe. I want you to tell me the whole truth. All of it. How long has this been going on? How many other people are involved? Her eyes widened, and she looked away. For a brief moment, I thought she might finally come clean, but she clamped her mouth shut. The silence between us grew heavier with each passing second. I don't know what you want from me, she murmured, voice barely above a whisper. I can't undo what I've done. I want the truth, Emily. I repeated, my voice sharp. How many others? You've been lying, and I need to know how far this goes. She hesitated, guilt written across her face. But finally, she spoke, though her words didn't ease the pain. It's just Jake. I swear. There's no one else. I didn't believe her. I couldn't. I stood up, anger bubbling up. I can't do this anymore. If you won't tell me the truth, I'll find out myself. She rushed to me, grabbing my arm. Please don't go. Please don't leave. I pulled away from her, my heart racing. Then tell me everything. No more lies. I deserve that much. I turned and walked out of the kitchen, unable to stand in that house a second longer. The truth, whatever it was still out there, and I wasn't going to rest until I had it. I spent the next few hours walking, trying to sort through the chaos in my mind. The anger had faded into something worse, confusion and doubt. I couldn't stop thinking about everything I'd missed, every lie, every sign I'd ignored. How had I been so blind? But there was no point in dwelling on the past now. I needed answers, and I was determined to get them. When I came back home, the atmosphere was tense. Emily sat on the couch, her eyes red, and I could see the guilt written all over her face. She didn't speak, and I didn't move toward her. We both knew this conversation wasn't over. It had barely even started. I stood in front of her, trying to keep my voice steady. I need the truth, Emily. No more lies. Who else is involved? How long has this been going on? She flinched at my words, avoiding my gaze. For a moment, she seemed like she was fighting with herself, but finally, she whispered, I already told you. It's just Jake. I didn't believe her. Not for a second. You don't get to keep lying to me. Not anymore. I haven't lied, she said quickly, her voice shaky. I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was just so stupid. I clenched my fists, holding back the frustration that was rising in me. You were scared? You were scared of losing me? What about me, Emily? What about what you were doing to me? I've been living a lie, thinking everything was fine. And you've been seeing him for a year. How many others are there? Her eyes filled with tears, and she looked away. I could see the fear in her face, but it didn't stop the anger inside me from boiling over. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered, shaking her head. It just happened. I didn't want excuses. I wanted the truth. Tell me everything, Emily. Now. She was silent for a long time, her hands trembling in her lap. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, There's someone else. Someone before Jake. But I didn't think you could handle it. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My mind went blank for a moment as I processed what she'd just admitted. Who else? I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. Who was it? She hesitated, but then finally spoke. It was someone from work. It didn't last long, but it happened. I didn't know how to tell you. I never wanted to hurt you. The air in the room felt thick, suffocating. I took a step back, feeling everything I thought I knew about her unravel. The truth was darker than I could have ever imagined. The truth hung between us like a heavy fog. Emily's confession had shattered what little trust one had left. A year of betrayal, two different people, and all the lies she had spun to cover it up. It felt like a bad dream, but I couldn't wake up from it. Every word she had spoken was like a knife twisting deeper, and yet, she wasn't done. Is that everything? I asked, my voice hoarse, not wanting to hear more, but needing to know it all. Or is there more you're still hiding? She shook her head, her tears falling freely now. No, that's all. I swear. I stood there, staring at her, trying to process everything she had just admitted. The woman I had built a life with, the woman I had trusted, had broken me in ways I wasn't sure I could recover from. A year of my life had been nothing but a lie, and now, all that was left was the wreckage. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. How could I ever look at her the same way again? How could I ever believe anything she said from this moment on? Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I broke the silence. I don't know if I can do this anymore. Her face crumpled, and she reached out for me, but I stepped back, needing the space. I've forgiven you before, Emily, for the little things. But this is too much. How could you do this to me? I didn't want to hurt you, she cried. I swear, I never meant to. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. Please, don't leave me. I love you. The words sounded empty now. Love? How could love allow this? How could she have been so careless with something I thought was sacred? I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. I don't know if I can forgive you this time. You've broken something in me, and I'm not sure how to fix it. She fell to her knees, pleading, but I couldn't bring myself to move. I wasn't sure if I wanted to forgive her. Maybe I did, but the hurt was so raw, so deep. Please, don't leave me. We can fix this. We can try. I'll do anything. Her voice was desperate, but mine stayed cold. I need time. I need space to figure out what's best for me. She stared up at me, her face filled with a mix of hope and fear. I could see the love in her eyes, but it wasn't enough. She had destroyed my trust, and I didn't know if I could ever rebuild it. I turned away, walking toward the door. I'll be back in a few days, but I need some time alone to think. She didn't stop me this time. She didn't beg anymore. The silence in the room was deafening as I left. The next few days felt like I was living in a different world. The house was quieter without Emily's constant presence. I didn't realize how much of my life had been wrapped up in her until I suddenly had to face the silence. The space I had asked for was one thing, but the loneliness that came with it was something else entirely. I spent the first few days walking around, lost in my own thoughts, trying to make sense of everything. I found myself replaying the same questions over and over in my head. How could she do this? How could I not have seen it? There were so many emotions: anger, betrayal, confusion, but most of all, there was a deep sadness. It wasn't just that she had cheated. It was that she had chosen to keep it hidden, to keep lying to me even when I had trusted her with everything. I spent time thinking about our past, the years we'd been together. There were moments I would never forget, things I thought we'd shared, that now felt tainted. I couldn't look back on them the same way anymore. How could I? But as the days passed, something else began to happen. I started to think about myself. I'd spent so long focused on us, on fixing our relationship, that I hadn't considered what I wanted or needed. It felt selfish, in a way, but it was also necessary. I had to decide whether staying in this relationship was worth it. Was it worth the pain? Was it worth trying to rebuild what we had, knowing it would never be the same? I knew Emily wanted me back. She had been texting and calling, apologizing over and over. I had ignored her messages, mostly because I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know what to say, didn't know if I could offer her forgiveness. But there was a part of me that still cared. How could there not be? We had built a life together, shared so much. I wasn't ready to just walk away from that. I decided it was time to face her, to have a conversation about where we stood. The idea of confronting her again, of talking about everything, made my stomach twist, but I knew it was the only way forward. I texted her, telling her to meet me at the park, somewhere neutral. she agreed quickly, and I could almost feel her relief through the screen. But for me, the relief was a long time coming. When I saw her at the park, she looked almost fragile, like she was waiting for me to deliver some kind of judgment. I didn't know what I was going to say yet, but I knew I had to make a decision soon. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly when I approached. I nodded, trying to steady myself. "I'm getting there. We need to talk." The silence between Emily and I felt suffocating as we sat on the bench in the park. I could feel her eyes on me, but I couldn't bring myself to look at her. She seemed so small, so fragile, but I wasn't ready to feel sympathy for her. Not yet. Not after everything. "Thank you for meeting me," Emily said quietly, breaking the silence. Her voice trembled, as if she were afraid of what I might say. "I know I've hurt you, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if I can." I didn't answer right away, taking a long breath to steady myself. "I've been thinking about this," I said slowly. "I've been trying to figure out if there's a way forward, but I don't know, Emily. I don't know if I can forgive you." Her face crumpled as she heard my words, her eyes filling with tears. "I understand," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just need you to know I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. It was a mistake, a huge mistake, but I swear it wasn't about you. It was me. My failure. I'm sorry." I clenched my jaw, fighting back the emotions that threatened to break through. "You keep saying it was a mistake, but it wasn't just a mistake. A mistake happens once. This was a series of choices, over and over. You chose him, you lied to me, and I don't know if I can live with that." She wiped her eyes, nodding, but the guilt in her face only made me feel emptier. I know what I did, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I never wanted to hurt you, but I did. Please, I love you. I can't lose you." The desperation in her voice made something inside me ache, but I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. The truth was that we couldn't go back. Even if I still loved her, the trust was shattered. That wasn't something you could just fix with words. "I don't know if I can stay," I said, my voice quieter, but still firm. "I can't live like this, Emily. Always questioning you. Always wondering if you're lying again. I need time to figure out if I can ever move past this." Her face crumpled in anguish, and she reached for me, but I pulled away, unable to let her touch me. "I understand," she said softly. "I'll wait. I'll give you the time you need." I stood up, feeling like the world was crashing down on me. "I need space. I can't decide what's next right now. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I need time to think." Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'll wait," she said again, almost pleading. "I just hope you'll find it in you to forgive me one day." I turned and walked away, my heart heavy with the weight of everything that had happened. I didn't know where we were headed, but I knew it couldn't stay the same. The days that followed our meeting in the park were a blur. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, each day feeling like an eternity. I spent hours lost in my thoughts, trying to make sense of everything. The house felt empty without Emily constantly around, but in a way, the silence was a relief. I didn't have to face her, didn't have to listen to her apologies or the sound of my own guilt for questioning everything. But as the days passed, the weight of the decision I had to make started to settle in. I couldn't keep living like this, stuck in limbo, waiting for an answer that might never come. The questions echoed in my mind constantly. Can I forgive her? Can I live with the lies? Is it possible to rebuild trust after everything? I hadn't heard from her in 2 days. At first, the space felt like a gift, but soon the silence became unbearable. I knew she was waiting, hoping for a sign, for some reassurance that maybe there was still a chance. But I couldn't give her that. Not yet. I had to think about what was best for me. I had to consider whether I could live with the knowledge of what she had done. The image of her with someone else, the betrayal, kept flashing in my mind, and each time it felt like a fresh wound. How could I ever look at her the same way? I found myself questioning everything. The years we had spent together, were they real? Or had they been tainted by deceit from the start? The person I thought I knew, the woman I had trusted completely, was now a stranger. How could I possibly go back to that? But then, the other side of me, the one that still loved her despite everything, started to fight back. I remembered the good times, the laughter, the shared dreams, the moments that had made me believe in us. Could all of that just disappear in an instant because of 1 year of mistakes? Could we rebuild what we had, or was it better to walk away and never look back? The decision wasn't going to be easy. I had to face the fact that even if I stayed, it would never be the same. I couldn't trust her the way I used to, and that was a heavy burden to carry. That night, I texted Emily, asking her to meet me at the same park. It was time to face the music. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I knew I couldn't keep avoiding the inevitable. I arrived at the park early, the chill of the evening air biting at my skin. I could see Emily approaching from a distance, her head down, hands tucked into the pockets of her jacket. She looked small, almost fragile, but I knew better now. I knew she wasn't the person I thought she was, and that hurt more than anything. When she reached me, she stopped a few feet away, her eyes searching mine, waiting for me to say something, anything. I took a deep breath, gathering the strength to face what I had been avoiding. "I've thought about this," I said, my voice steady, but the weight of the decision making my words feel heavier than they should be. "I've spent the last few days trying to figure out what's best for me, and for us." Emily nodded, her face tense with anticipation. She didn't speak, but her eyes told me everything. I could see the hope, the fear, the desperation. She was waiting for me to tell her that we could fix this, but I wasn't sure we could. "I'm not sure if I can forgive you," I continued, the words hanging between us. "I don't know if I can go back to what we had. The trust we had, it's gone, and it's hard for me to imagine rebuilding it." Her breath caught, and she stepped forward, but I held up my hand, stopping her. "Please, let me finish." She nodded silently, her eyes never leaving mine. "I loved you, Emily. I still love you. But what you did, it changed everything. I can't just erase that, and I can't keep pretending like things are fine when they're not." I paused, swallowing hard, before saying the words that felt like they would break me. I think it's time for us to go our separate ways." The words felt final as they left my lips, and I saw Emily's face crumble. The hope in her eyes disappeared, replaced by the agony of realization. She stepped back, almost as if the decision physically pushed her away. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I never wanted to lose you. Please, I'll do anything." I could see how much she was hurting, and part of me wanted to reach out, to hold her, to tell her it would be okay. But I couldn't. Not after everything. Not when the damage was too deep. "I know," I said softly, my voice breaking. "I know you didn't want this. But we can't fix this. Not now." For a moment, we just stood there in the quiet, the reality of what was happening settling between us like a weight neither of us could carry. "I'll always love you," I said quietly. "But I need to let go." She nodded, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. I turned to leave, not looking back, knowing that this was the hardest thing I would ever do. As I walked away, I didn't feel relief or closure. I only felt the empty space between us, the space that could never be filled again.